There's a kind of emotional pain that doesn't scream, it whispers. And the most dangerous wounds are often the ones nobody can see. Maybe you've felt it before. That strange heaviness in your chest at 2 a.m. when the world is silent, but your mind refuses to be. The kind of pain that doesn't come from a single heartbreak, betrayal, or failure, but from realizing something inside you changed after those moments, quietly, permanently. People talk about sadness. People talk about depression. But almost nobody talks about the psychology of emotional pain, what it actually does to the human soul when suffering stays unspoken for too long. Because emotional pain is not just feeling hurt. It rewires the way you trust, the way you love, the way you see yourself in a room full of people. And sometimes, the person smiling the most is carrying the deepest wound. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And maybe that's why modern life is so loud. We distract ourselves endlessly, scrolling, laughing, posting, chasing validation, because silence forces us to meet the pain we buried years ago. But what if your pain was never trying to destroy you? What if it was trying to reveal something about you that comfort never could? Tonight, we're going deeper than motivation, deeper than self-help. We're entering the hidden psychology of emotional pain, the part nobody talks about. Part 1, the pain you cannot explain is often the deepest. The human mind is strange. Physical pain has language. If your arm breaks, people see the cast. If you bleed, people rush to help. But emotional pain behaves differently. It hides beneath functioning routines. You can go to school, answer messages, laugh with friends, while internally feeling disconnected from yourself. This is why emotional pain becomes dangerous when ignored. Not because it destroys you immediately, but because it slowly teaches you to live disconnected from your own emotions. Many people don't even realize they're emotionally hurting. They just notice the symptoms. They become emotionally numb. They lose motivation. Small things irritate them. They overthink every interaction. They stop feeling excited about the future. And eventually, they convince themselves this is just adulthood. But it isn't. The philosopher Nietzsche wrote, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties, and emotional pain works through invisible threads. Childhood rejection, silent betrayals, feeling emotionally abandoned, constant criticism, being loved only when useful. These experiences leave psychological fingerprints on the nervous system. Imagine carrying a backpack every day without realizing someone keeps adding stones into it. One stone doesn't matter, neither do two. But after years, you wonder why simply existing feels exhausting. That's emotional pain, not dramatic, not cinematic, just quietly heavy. And the saddest part? Most people only notice their pain after it starts affecting the people they love. Because unresolved pain rarely stays contained. It leaks into relationships, into anger, into isolation, into self-sabotage. The pain nobody talks about is not always loud suffering. Sometimes it's becoming a version of yourself you no longer recognize. Part 2. Why emotional pain changes your personality without you noticing. There was a version of you that laughed more easily, trusted more openly, dreamed without fear, spoke without overthinking every word. But emotional pain has a hidden psychological effect most people never notice. It slowly transforms survival mechanisms into personality traits. At first, you were only protecting yourself. After betrayal, you became cautious. After rejection, you became quieter. After disappointment, you stopped expecting too much from people. It felt temporary, but over time, the mind adapts to emotional pain by redesigning your behavior around avoiding future hurt. Psychologists call this emotional conditioning. The brain remembers pain and begins predicting danger even where none exists. That is why someone who was once soft becomes emotionally distant, why someone once confident suddenly fears vulnerability, why people who were deeply hurt often say, "I just don't feel like myself anymore." Because pain changes perception before it changes behavior. Carl Jung believed that the parts of ourselves we refuse to confront become our shadow, and emotional pain feeds that shadow quietly, not through evil, but through suppression. You stop expressing emotions because nobody listened before. You stop asking for help because you learned independence through loneliness. You stop trusting because disappointment trained your nervous system to expect abandonment. And eventually, survival becomes identity. Think about modern society for a moment. People celebrate emotional detachment like strength. Don't care too much. Never show weakness. Be cold. But many emotionally distant people are not cold by nature. They are wounded people who adapted too well to pain. That's the tragedy nobody talks about. The human heart was never designed to become emotionally numb. It became numb because feeling everything all at once became unbearable. And yet, here is the deeper truth. Pain doesn't only change you negatively. Sometimes, emotional suffering awakens a level of awareness comfort never could. A person who has suffered deeply often develops unusual emotional intelligence. They notice small changes in tone. They understand loneliness in others. They become more reflective about life, human nature, and meaning. Suffering sharpens perception. The problem is that many people become trapped in the identity their pain created. They forget adaptation is not destiny. You are not only the defense mechanisms you built to survive, you are also the person beneath them, and maybe healing begins the moment you stop asking, "What happened to me?" and start asking, "Who did pain force me to become?" Because that question changes everything. Part 3. The hidden addiction to emotional pain. Most people never realize they have. This is one of the darkest psychological truths about emotional suffering. The human mind does not always choose what is healthy. Sometimes it chooses what is familiar, even pain. After enough heartbreak, disappointment, rejection, or emotional neglect, suffering can quietly become part of your identity. Not because you enjoy being hurt, but because your nervous system begins treating emotional pain as normal. And what becomes normal eventually becomes comfortable. That is why some people unconsciously return to toxic relationships, why they sabotage healthy connections, why chaos feels more real than peace, because peace feels unfamiliar. Psychologists often describe this as emotional addiction to emotional familiarity. The philosopher Albert Camus once wrote, "In the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer." But before people find that summer, many spend years unconsciously recreating emotional winters because pain feels psychologically safer than uncertainty. And social media has amplified this deeply. People now romanticize suffering constantly. Sadness becomes personality. Emotional damage becomes identity. Detachment becomes aesthetic. But there's a difference between understanding your pain and building your entire identity around it. Because when pain becomes identity, healing starts to feel like betrayal. Read that again. Some people resist healing because their suffering is the only version of themselves they understand. If they let go of the pain, they fear losing who they are. That's why emotional healing is terrifying, not because healing hurts, but because it demands transformation. And transformation requires grieving the person you became in survival mode. The version of you that stopped trusting, stopped hoping, stopped feeling safe. But here's the truth most people discover too late. Pain may explain your behavior, but it should never become your prison. Your wounds deserve acknowledgement. Your suffering deserves compassion. But your future deserves more than permanent survival mode, because there is still a self beneath the sadness, a self untouched by betrayal, a self waiting to breathe again without fear. And maybe healing is not becoming someone new. Maybe healing is remembering who you were before pain convinced you that survival was your only purpose. Part 4. The real reason emotional pain can become your greatest awakening. This is the part nobody expects. After all the sleepless nights, the silent breakdowns, the emotional exhaustion nobody noticed, something strange begins to happen. You start seeing the world differently, not with innocence anymore, but with depth. Because emotional pain has a psychological effect that comfort rarely produces. It forces self-confrontation. When life is easy, most people live unconsciously. They follow routines, chase approval, avoid difficult questions. But suffering interrupts the illusion. Pain asks questions comfort never does. Who are you when nobody validates you? What truly matters when everything superficial collapses? Why do you seek love from people incapable of giving it? Why do you abandon yourself to keep others close? These are painful questions, but they are awakening questions. The Buddha taught that suffering is woven into human existence, not as punishment, but as a path toward awareness. And across history, many philosophers understood something modern culture avoids admitting. Deep pain often becomes the birthplace of transformation, not instantly, not magically, but slowly. Like fire shaping steel, think about the strongest people you've ever met emotionally. Most were not protected from suffering, they were shaped by it. The person who now values peace once lived in chaos. The person who now gives love freely once knew loneliness deeply. The person who now understands others once cried in silence, feeling misunderstood. Pain expands emotional vision. Suddenly, you notice how many people are secretly struggling behind smiles. You become gentler with human flaws, less arrogant, less judgmental, more aware of how fragile people really are. And perhaps this is the hidden gift buried inside emotional pain. It breaks illusions. The illusion that life is always fair. The illusion that external success guarantees inner peace. The illusion that strength means never hurting. Real strength is different. Real strength is remaining open-hearted after disappointment, remaining kind after betrayal, remaining hopeful after darkness tried to convince you that nothing would ever change. That is courage. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And maybe that is the psychology nobody talks about. Your emotional pain was not meaningless. It was shaping awareness, depth, wisdom, boundaries, clarity. Not every wound makes people bitter. Some wounds make people finally awaken. So if you are carrying emotional pain today, remember this. The goal is not to erase every scar. The goal is to stop letting pain define the limits of your future. Because one day, you may look back at the season that nearly broke you and realize it was also the season that introduced you to your real self. Before you leave this video, sit with this thought for a moment. Maybe your emotional pain was never proof that you were weak. Maybe it was proof that you felt life deeply in a world that taught people to suppress everything human. And perhaps the real tragedy is not that people suffer. Perhaps the real tragedy is how many people suffer silently while pretending they are okay. But you do not have to spend your entire life disconnected from yourself. You do not have to become emotionally numb just to survive this world, because every painful experience carries a hidden question. Will this pain make you unconscious, or will it wake you up? The answer to that question shapes an entire life. So if you are still healing, still searching, still trying to understand the weight you carry inside you, know this. Some of the deepest people in this world were created by pain they never asked for. And one day, you may realize that the struggle you hated the most was also the moment your soul began to evolve. Until then, protect your peace, protect your mind, And never underestimate the strength it took for you to keep going when nobody could see the battle inside you. Because sometimes the strongest hearts are the ones carrying invisible scars. And sometimes the pain nobody talks about becomes the wisdom you carry forever.